allocate 1.7 billion CFA francs for children facing humanitarian crisis. Get to read that story on the year section of the scope of Lawrence Essong. Away from that paper, we move on to Douala with Quotidien Emergence for this day. That is Quotidien Emergence talks of the critics against the regime of Paul Biya as the new season of arrests is prevailing following the arrest of this popular TikToker or a young star in Douala who was arrested and transferred to the state's Secretariat of Defense, known for short in French as SED. And this other arrest of this Cameroonian who was residing in Gabon was arrested and extradited to Cameroon and to Yaoundé. And we move on to the development of the nation Cameroon. It says the World Bank disbursed 1,200 billion CFA francs to Cameroon as loans. Get to read more on that said paper for today. Europe and the Paris Summer Olympic, it says, what chances are there for Cameroon to win a medal? That's a question the paper Quotidien Emergence is asking for this morning. From Quotidien Emergence, we now move on to the next publication for today. I think we'll be moving on to the Guardian, not the Guardian. The Dawn for today says crisis in CPD and FACO 1A. Senator Tabetando calms the storm. Makake triumphs. Get to read more on that said paper of the Dawn newspaper for today. We move on to the next publication for this still in the set the Dawn. The Dawn talks of Catholic Women Association celebrates 60 years of existence in Cameroon. This was a special celebration of the Diamond Jubilee of the Catholic Women's Association, or known in French as the Association des Femmes Catholiques, who all assembled in Buea for this Diamond Jubilee celebration, as is what it was presided over by the Pope's representatives to Cameroon. That's the Apostolic Nuncio to Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea, Julio Morat. Get to read more on that said paper for today. Now, we football tournament kicks off, ignites community spirit, and this tournament is championed by the Member of Parliament for the Buea Oban constituency, Honorable Malomba Eseme. Meme Division welcomes new delegate for secondary education. We move on to Kumba. It talks of women lament against drug use by their children and what in Kumba. EUDEV celebrates 25 years of environmental conservation. You get to read that story on the bottom page story of that publication of the Dawn for this morning. From the Dawn, we move on to the next publication, the Quotidien. The Quotidien talks of mobilization of potable water. It talks of this engagement taken by the Director General of the Cameroon Water Utility Corporation, Blaise Moussa, to supply potable water to many households in the nation's political capital city of Yaoundé and the nation at large, according to the Quotidien for this day. Afrique Hebdo for this morning have a similar caption to that of Le Quotidien. It says potable water, the initiative taken by Cam Water. I get to read that story for this morning, and we move on to the imperative. We take you now to Hebdomia Mesala. It talks of the spectacular opening of the Paris Summer Olympic Games in the French capital city. It says Paul and Chantal Biya bear testimony of this big grand opening of the Olympic Games in the French capital city of Paris. We move forward with this other story. The paper report on Cameroon and the World Bank. It says the partnership deal that is in review. You want to find more on Hebdomia Mesala newspaper for today. Taking you now to Les Info Show, it talks of the for the preservation of social justice. It says Free Junior, and that is the Cameroonian young TikToker who was arrested, and he's still in detention in the state's defense secretariat in Yaoundé. Junior was arrested in Douala and taken to Yaoundé. So the paper is calling on Free Junior, the freedom of the youngster Junior there, who is quite popular on TikTok. We move on to something different this time around with the response of the response of the Christians all across the world who say no to Satanism. This is during the opening ceremony of the Paris Summer Olympic, as we had a drag queen who is attributed or symbolizes the Jesus and the 12 disciples. So the Christian community is angry towards this satanism put in place by the French people, and the French in response, they had to take down that image on all their social media platform and from the internet at large. So you can find more on that said paper for today. After the outing of the mother of Junior, he says former bar president Abkarem Mouna and others constitute the defense team for Junior Gombe. You want to find more on that paper for today. Cameroon Tribune of Marie Claire Nana for this morning says Paul Biya and Emmanuel Macron, the good relationship between both men or both countries. Get to read more on Cameroon Tribune for this day. And as at Cameroon Tribune, it says Boya University flies Cameroon higher in China. Fight against food insecurity. 13 beg your pardon, it says 13.8 billion CFA francs are available for the fight against hunger and starvation in Cameroon. Lake Chad Basin, the heart of the bastion of Boko Haram, lost to that insurgency of the nation. We move on to Le Chapeau of Karotamba says public service, the end of break for absentee civil servants. This was a resolution taken by the Prime Minister, head of government, Joseph Dion Kuti, and during the July cabinet ministers conclave at the Star Building there in the Yaoundé. We move on to the fight against hepatitis, the paper report of the progress made by the Cameroonian government. Get read more on that set pay application for this day, and we move next to the fight of Ferdinand Gongo and Adolphe Modiki. It says when Paul Biya becomes the referee of a fight. Get read that story on Eco Matin quotidian for this day. And that's it, Eco Matin, the paper report of the Semak region, sub-region. It says a strategy of banks that needs to make sure the central bank of the Central African State of BEAC still become a strong entity. That was the pronouncement of the Minister of Economy, Planning and Regional Development, Alamin Usman May. And for Matin for this morning, report on the police department in Cameroon. It says Martin Bangagele recommends and congratulates police officers for their professionalism. This was during a police ceremony at the Advanced Police College in Yaoundé. Get rid of story on that said paper for today. Cameroon Insider, another publication of Marie Claire Nana, talks of the sideline of the Paris Olympic Games. Paul Biya Macron confessed at Elysee Palace. Public service, government vows to crush chronic absenteeism in the Cameroonian public service. Snapshot of the GCE results. Get rid of story on page 12, and we move on to the next paper. The post from Boya report on Professor Kamto urges CRM militants to shun regime maneuvers. In that said publication, Chief Tabetando Njepso Ndo Beta urge FACO 1A CPDM section to bury hatches and unite for a formidable force. And minister refutes report of alleged issuance of mining permits to Australian company. That is the interim minister of mine, Fulcantus Gentry, will refute that. Away from that, we move next to the publication of the next publication for today is we move on to, I think, the Guardian Post. Yeah, we move on to the Guardian Post for this morning. It looks as if we are not having the Guardian Post for today. Let's cross over now to this day talks of in nationwide protest. 3 days to go in nationwide protest. Nigerians still divided on action. Fetch inflation has peaked in Nigeria, will be moderate below 25%. Daily Sun for this day says nationwide protest fallout. Senators, reps, politicians desert Abuja, travel abroad on the heels of the nationwide protest. Sporting Sun for this day, Nyacho for civilian medic this week, and Manchester United ready to sell erection for just 5 million euros. I mean, that's a publication. The paper talks of Al Saad tables 100 million US dollars offer to Rafina, and the Daily Times for this morning says why we demand details of organizers, according to the Inspector General of Police, of regarding the mass protests in Nigeria come the 1st of August 2024. We come back to Cameroon with this publication. This time around, we'll make a stopover with the paper for this morning. That is the publication for today. We take you to Premier. Premier talks of the affair Martinez Zogo. It says the polemics surrounding some key functionals in the country in connection with the Martinez Zogo assassination. Or get to read more on that said paper of Premier for this day. With Premier, this is all close. This first part of the program, but the number of a muscle. We are here with our reviewer. Once again, you are welcome back to the second phase of the program. Joining us on the second phase is our reviewer, Lucas Nji. Good morning to you, Lucas, and you are heartily welcome on to this Monday's edition of the 29th day of July.
Good morning, it's a pleasure.
All right, and we kickstart business with Les Infos à Chaud. Les Infos à Chaud for this morning report of the preservation of social justice. Free Junior. This is the young man Junior Gombe who has been vibrant on the social media space, most precisely with TikTok, calling on Cameroonian young persons to make sure they register massively on the electoral register, as it will be closing next month of August. And later on, he was arrested in Douala and taken to the State's Defense Secretariat, known for short in French, as said. What do you make of this engagement by the certain officials in the country who with the build up to next year's presidential election and next 2 years general elections?
I want to look at it from the point of legality,
okay,
and the point of right. We should not forget that it is only an arrest, and if it is, or it was a lawful arrest, that is, if the arrest was duly signed by a state council, then it is okay. Another thing is, he is only a suspect, and it would appear certain utterances were made by him, which the cyber criminality or the cyber law and the hate speech and
law against the terrorism
and the rest, you get it, is also on its own course. So an arrest which is legal, we have to look at the reason. As it stands, he is a suspect. He was not found guilty yet as concerning the things he says and so online. We must not rule out the fact that the Cameroon government has committed over 1,000 young people online to monitor the activities of others and what they say. And they are always afraid if you have a large following, because they believe that this is going to hamper or hinder whatever objective they have. And in this case, you shouldn't forget that whenever the executive arm of government makes a call to the legislative and the judiciary, they don't ponder. They don't ponder. They carry out their activity. And what is quite unfortunate is that you are sometimes arrested under a judicial order. It could be an order from the bench, that's the legal bench. It could be an order from the state council. for you to be arrested. And sometimes you are required to be arrested and remanded. So the arrest and remand warrant was duly followed. If yes, then that part has been settled. The other part is they have to now investigate to see what invisible hands he has. How does he align with his call for persons to register en masse for upcoming elections in the country? Which, of course, we all know that the deadline as set by ELECAM is the 31st of August. In a few days' time, we shall move into the month that closes this activity. So when you look at all of this, it is easy for you now to see what is involved. Now, let me leave that aspect.
And calling on the president on the economic hardship that many people are facing, inflation skyrocketing, high cost of living. These are some of his causes that he has been championing on TikTok.
That's great. So the call also would matter with regards to the law that you have on the ground. We should not forget that the 2014 law on terrorism is relatively a law that is acting ultra-vires to the 1990 laws on freedom of expressions and the rest. Some of us have actually criticized the law, and we have called on the legislative to look at how they can repeal that particular law or modify the law, which should not indeed take away the people's freedom. You know, firstly, in Cameroon, you must declare that you want to protest before the divisional head of your said division, and he or she will grant you the permissions to protest within that said area. So if I want to make a protest, for example, as a group of people in Gelemenduka, in Fotoko, in Delele, or in Kwakwa, or maybe in Furawa, or in Alo, it means my team, we have to send a declaration to the divisional heads, whether the sub-divisional head or the divisional head. Therefore, if I'm in Boya, I need to meet the DO for Boya for him to approve that. Now, that is what the law is, and this is summarily the background on which he was actually arrested. Now, what I have to say is this: he has been calling on the head of state, whom he considers one of his employees, because by law, the president is answerable to the people. And when you talk about the people, you talk about the constitution. And those who make these laws are the MPs, and the MPs are a people decided by the people. That is the reason why whenever the MPs take a decision, it is often said that the people's decision is what was considered. So Biawu is the president, promulgates whatever the MP would have made as a law, because it is considered that it is a law that is coming from the people. Therefore, these MPs have given us that latitude to openly call them our employees and to also call the president an employee. Now, Ngombe Jr. would always call the president, whom he considers one of his employees, to sit up and see the issues concerning famine in the country, hardship on the people, children who are now into drugs and they will underperform, children who cannot afford meal and thereby giving them brain problem, because when you don't eat well, you develop brain problem. You cannot reason as it is scientifically. It's a medically proved deficiency from the brain, because the brain cannot fully develop and you cannot indeed harness what is in your mind. So this guy was arrested because of these calls and other things which they are investigating him. However, I want to say that for those who had not seen the effect on the calls being made by Cameroonians, for most of us who do not know, to go and meet ELECAM and register for election, these are evidences that these calls have gone through, and the calls are now having a toll on the executive. Like I said, it is the executive that will always order for the arrest. It will be in rare cases that you will hear the judiciary will order for your arrest, because the judiciary has its own job. And except maybe you are summoned, except the executive finds you guilty, except the legislative may want the judiciary to ensure that this takes place. So Ngombe was not actually arrested because he is against Elekam. Ngombe was arrested because they think that there are things that he has said in his call for Cameroonians to register en masse for us to outstate, in his own words, the current regime, because he believes that when the people register en masse, when we massively go to the polls, it will be a catapult to take us into that realm where he has found Cameroonian suffering. So, Hilary, I think what we need to look at here is the legality and the illegality in his arrest. And we have to look at the fact that investigations are not judgment. So if he was actually whisked to SED, that is the secretary of the secretary of the Defense and Security Forces, which is in Yaoundé, taking him from Douala, it means it is now speaking something else. And it means in some of his outings, there are other things they have noticed, and they believe that some other persons of big offices, in quote and quote unquote, are indeed pushing him to do what he's doing.
Okay, but let's focus on the timing. We have a scenario where elections are just at the corner, with it's not all, even a year, with some few months to 2025, I beg your pardon, where Cameroonians will be going to the polls to elect their president. And this scenario is coming at this time when this is like the Yaoundé regime is trying to send a fear signal to the locals, or because we saw the outing of the Minister of the Administration recently during the 10 governors regional conclave in Yaoundé, where he was really sarcastic towards certain politicians and opposition politicians, of course. And we equally have the recent outing of the senior divisional officer for Fundi, Mariel Emmanuel Chikten, who says persons who actually are like outspoken against the Biya regime will be having themselves expelled or deported, let me put it that way, from the Fundi division that hosts Yaoundé.
I want to go with the divisional head in Fundi. I want to say it to him the way he is. He is acting against the constitution of the country, and it's quite unlawful. Therefore, in a state where things are respected as it is on the pieces of paper we have before us, this guy ought to have been arrested or called to answer questions for trying to instill or for inciting genocide.
The SDF just tabled a case against him at the Yaoundé Administrative Court
of Administration, which I think I did say this last week, that they ought to have seized the court by now. So this guy is inciting genocide. He is calling for Cameroonians to rebel against the state. He is among those who want to secede this country. And because he is a secessionist in his outing, which many will not see it, if you look at the constitution, it says that every Cameroonian has the right to live anywhere within the country. And this person should respect the laws in the country. Therefore, they call for people, for Paul Biya, who is their employee. It is worth mentioning. For Joseph Diongute, who is their employee. For Maxenia Njifenji, who is their employee. To Ayang Luke, who is their employee. To Kavayege Jibril, who is their employee. I am listening to you. I have just listed to you the 5 persons in this country as per the succession line, from Paul Biya to Maxenia Njifenji, from Njifenji to Kavayege Jibril, from Kavayege Jibril to Ayang Luke, who is the president of the Social and Economic Council. He is calling on these people, Cameroonians are calling on these people to sit up and do the job as per the social contract that we have. For God's sake, how is this an anti-republican move? This is a question which many look forward to having an answer on this. But if you look at the situation, like you ask, that it is coming on the eve of an electoral year, though very vital elections, as I will put it, had been postponed to to 2026, because I've always said this. If you want to salvage the issues of corruptions and the rest in this country, start with the parliament. Start with the council. If you can put the right people at the local councils, and you have the right people at the parliament, whether you like it or not, the presidency is going to succumb, is going to submit to these institutions. Because at the level of the councils, the people will now see the work the council is doing to move up and decide who should become their next mayor, who should become the next member of parliament or parliamentarian, and the next senators, and the next regional head, like the regional councils for the southwest regions and the rest. So these are the people who are indeed causing this country to be where it is. The presidency is simply being fed by these people. I tell you the truth. If the people of Cameroon will sit up. Now, this is what Junior has been doing. Junior looks at some of these things and he says they are not good. But I would totally condemn also his arrest. If the arrest is some kind of a repressive measure, if it is acting against the freedom of expression, but if he is actually investigated and found guilty in some of his outing, maybe there was hate speech in his outing, maybe there was some subtle way of calling violence or inciting violence in the country, as per an existing law, this is where it becomes problematic. So I want to say that coming at the eve of an electoral year where we have the presidential election scheduled for 2025, provided the date maintains, we are talking about the 9th of October 2025, it is a subtle way to deter the people from registering for elections, and it is a subtle way to kill down the spirit of the people so that they wouldn't see the need for them to go to the polls. And I want to say that it is some kind of a repressive measure, because when it comes on a period or at a time like this, on the eve of an election, it is a way to tell those who we have been calling to register that all what you are saying is a farce. It is simply something that is not realistic.
Okay.
Many may want to see it as a hoax, that this is not going to come true. But I want to say that Cameroonians should not, by this act, go into their shell. You need to come out of your shell and ensure that no matter how slow you would move like a snail, you should have your destination. And what is the destination? A better life for all. What many Cameroonians need to see and what many Cameroonians have to do. So we should not, by this, be pulled back. Let us see where this is leading. And I am happy that there are calls being made from people of rank and file for Ngombe Jr. to be released.
Akeremuna.
Akeremuna has placed a call, and many others. So, and with the actions of SDF, an opposition party in the Republic of Cameroon, whose pioneer chairperson took it upon himself, went to the Matazim toll gate and dislodged that toll gate because the collection of funds to maintain the road was not being put in place. The same party today has come up to openly tell the Dio from Fundi that all what you are doing is what we call in local parlance frying rice and trying to fry rice or boil rice on a candlestick.
Or boil beans.
Boil beans on a candle.
All right, Lucas.
So it is easier for us to see. Let Cameroonians not be worried.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we move on to this story still on the asset paper of Les Infos à Chaud. A report on the Christian community in the world says no to Satanism staged by the French government. This was during the opening ceremony of the Paris Summer Olympic, where we saw a drag queen with 12 other persons making reference to Jesus' Last Supper with the 12 apostles.
Yeah. Well, I think this is Christianity, and I am a de facto Christian.
Okay.
Let me tell you this.
I hear you.
Yes. I have no issue with that, okay? As a matter of fact, if I were to speak from the point of the Christian that I am, of course, so many know me out there as a pastor, I will be saying that it is only coming to fulfill the scripture which talks about the later days.
Okay.
And according to Jesus, when you see such things,
know the end is near.
know the end is near. And to Christians, as Paul put it, to live is for Christ, and when you die is gain.
Yeah. And so the French actually rushed when this backlash came out. They actually rushed and deleted all of these things online on their various platforms, the Olympic platforms and the French government online platforms. So they tried to delete it, but the whole
others had already downloaded, copied, saved, screenshot.
So if you go to YouTube, you will not see this particular scene there.
Yeah.
So they are trying to do public damage control.
But they cannot do the damage control right now. This is to moralists. But to Christians, as a Christian, I want to be very open to you that I am not troubled, because it announces the second coming of the man Jesus, whom we all know as a Christian, that he is the Savior. Therefore, the scriptures and the prophecies or the things he had said, that these things were going to come. But the good news is that to Christians, so don't be troubled, okay? The good news is that when these things will happen, to those who are in him, it will not be an issue.
Okay.
So, I have a set of Christians I call the moralists, the moralist, then in quote Christians. The moralist, in quote Christians. They often get troubled. They want to retaliate. They are acting in a way that persons who are not knowledgeable with regards to the scriptures may want to say the kingdom of God had suffered violence and the violence took it by force. So they think this is the face of the violence. No. After the death of Christ, Christians are required to rather have faith in him. That is why Stephen did not see the persons killing him. He saw Christ sitting on the throne.
Yeah.
Rather, he was happy because he has seen his end. So I've always said that Christians who are afraid of death, because this is summarily what I always preach to people, that I'm not afraid of death because I had conquered death when Christ went to hell, had the devil beaten up, had him and his angels bound, and he came back to earth. The third day he spent was that in hell, wherein all of this was executed as per the scriptures. So what is very easy for Christians to note is, that is as easy as it should be, is these things need to come, because he said, okay, when you hear this thing, whoa, trouble, hey, then you have to know that the end is near.
All right.
So it is easier. But I want to say that religion tolerance is also something very good, because when there is no religious tolerance, it becomes problematic. Howbeit, those who did what they did in the Paris Olympic, perhaps they are announcing another thing. And I want to say that we are talking about Paris. For those who know, it's a country where the last time Notre Dame partly caught fire, there was an inferno there. I think that should be about 7 years or more ago.
Notre Dame, I think it's 4 years.
Or thereabout, okay. Yeah. If you got the images that are on Notre Dame, you would see this what Christians call satanic on Notre Dame.
And that is a church.
And which is a church. And it is believed to be the Church of Christ. However, we also know that France is not what we call a theocratic state. Okay? France is not a theocratic state, but they have a certain level. They believe in a particular organization, which will be great not to mention the name. They believe in a particular organization, which is a universal church, which sometimes when you mention the way they do the things, others take offense. But I want to say that because they believe in that particular organization, they have their own modus operandi. And this is the difference with the Anglicans and the difference with the
Protestants,
Église réveillée, as others put it, the Protestants and the Pentecostals. So it is easy. So I don't find that to be offensive as a born again. I don't find that to be offensive. beside the fact that I have an agreement with God as to when every other thing is going to close up for this flesh to live and go back to the Creator, I know for sure that death, I had conquered death, and that is why it is not a topic that I always listen to it, that I get panicked, because that was defeated. So let Christians not be troubled with what happened in the Paris Olympics.
All right, thank you for that incisive analysis there. We move forward with the Dawn for this morning report on Nawiwi football tournament kicks off, ignites community spirit in the town of Boya, as this took place yesterday, Sunday, at the Moliko Stadium in Boya. So what do you make of this Nawiwi tournament, and that is spearheaded by the Member of Parliament for the Boya Oban constituency, Honorable Malumba Eseme Dona?
I may not share his other views, but I want to openly give him a hand of applause.
Okay.
Yeah. In French, they will say "tu as bien fait."
Ah bon?
Oui. So, yeah.
Okay.
The reason for this is we cannot refuse the level at which football can draw the people from far and bring them near. We cannot refuse the level at which football could cause enemies to embrace themselves thereafter they go back and they start fighting. But I want to say that there is a time when football goes above that. I'll buy a bit into this when I look at 2017 when we got the Nations Cup. The military that were stationed in my 16th to curtail or to reduce the activities of the non-state armed groups at a particular point in time, who had gone at loggerhead with the community. You remember in the early days of these ongoing senseless killings in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, the state security forces acted with a lot of excesses and out of law. Unprofessionalism was the talk of the day. They know that they cannot refuse it. You look into your heart. If you're a general, you know what I'm talking about. If you're a colonel, if you're a commander, if you are a captain, you know what I'm talking about. You know what some of your elements did. So some of these guys who acted in this unprofessionalism or unprofessional, in that same community, after we got that cup, I said, as a civil society person, as a human rights defender, I walked up to the road and said, let me observe something. Then I noticed that the jubilation where the people would embrace the military in my 16 particularly, they purchased crates of drinks for the populations to share with them. I am talking about what? The power of football. And I know that Cameroonians are aware that in the sporting industry, football is the most lucrative to most and is the most unifying factor in all of this. So a round of applause again for Malumba Eseme, who is the Member of Parliament for Boya Oban. For one reason, he did not look at whether you are from CPDM, whether you are from SDF, or whether you are from MRC, or whether you are from CPRN, or whether you are from CPP, or whether you are from the UDC, or whether you are from the Reform Party, or whether you are from the PAP. What he looks, what he sees is Nawiwi. Let us see how we can come back and start putting some broken pieces. We cannot refuse the fact that in the course of this crisis, Boya has acted as a mother who suffered in protecting her children and provided opportunity for other children who could not actually have their mother cater for them. This is what Boya has been. That is the reason why Boya indeed did not actually go deserted, even though the governor at one point in time wanted to act out of proportion when he saw the mass exodus. when he got that mass exodus in a certain year, that was in 2018. I think that was between 2018 May 18 to the May 20th, when the non-state armed groups had actually said it is going to be deadly.
And almost everybody
exited Boya.
The town was ghosted.
He rushed to the My 17 bus station or the motor park.
And Okala Belai had to rush there. So where people going?
Great.
So
asking people to pa quoi?
So then he come.
So you get it.
So it was quite, there are quite a lot of hilarious scenes during this.
And also humorous, the humor. The humor in it was beyond, that which one could control.
You can imagine.
Yes.
So we move away from that scene to talk something different. This time around with Echo Matin. Echo Matin, the economic newspaper for today, talks of the National Hydrocarbon Company. It says when Paul Biya becomes the referee of a fight, this is the fight between Ferdinand Gongo and General Manager of SNH, Adolf Mudiki, according to that paper. What do you make of this statement with the flexing of muscles of Ferdinand Gongo, who says, I'm the boss, I need to remove you from your position? And Mudiki says, nobody does that to me except President Paul Biya. Now they say when Paul Biya is the referee of a fight.
Yeah, I'm taking a few seconds, not because it's something good, it's something very terrible. Adolf Mudiki has been there for over 30 years as the GM. Of course, you should know that he would later serve in other positions prior to his current position. And he's about 81 years of age. I think he's approximately 9 years or so younger than his elder brother, Paul Biya, who is the President of the Republic. So, at a particular point, things could not go the way they anticipated it. In 2019, as we may all know, as you may know, the President had delegated a certain proportion of his power to the Minister of State, Secretary General at the Presidency. We like titles. It's okay, but let's give it to those who enjoy it that much. So, who is Ferdinand Gongo? And you should not forget that a lot of persons are not in agreement with that move to have delegated power. But it is constitutional, it is lawful, because there was a law that had been made that the President has the right to actually delegate power to who he wills. I think if you look at that law, the President has the right to delegate. He may decide and delegate powers to Shuaibu, who is the divisional officer. It will work because power has been given to him. But he decided and gave it to Ferdinand Gongo. And Adolf Mudiki says, when it concerns the National Hydrocarbon Company, I don't talk issues with you, Ferdinand Gongo. I talk issues with Paul Biya, the President. And because of the presidency and the power the presidency possesses, Ferdinand Gongo did his best and called for a board meeting, which held in or at the presidency. Which is beautiful.
After the general manager sealed the office that no meeting will take place here.
Yeah. So that's it. You get it. But we are in a country where once someone like Paul Biya, who is the president, is the referee, and his two boys are fighting or are not in agreement as per what you see, he knows how to put them to order. A lot of persons thought that Ferdinand Gongo was going to relieve Adolf Mudiki from that position.
Power pass power.
Power at a certain point pass power, the talker for pidgin. So these are some of the things, okay? So Adolf Mudiki has his own view, the way he looks at Ferdinand Gongo. Firstly, he's been there for 30 years. Ferdinand Gongo is about 58 or 60 years old.
And he has served as Secretary General of the Presidency too.
And Mudiki, of course, you should know, like I said,
Mudiki has been the Secretary General of the Presidency.
That's what I said.
And he has a lot of multiple functions.
Great, you understand. So he looks at Ferdinand Gongo perhaps and says, look at me, this young boy of yesterday. I probably watched you while you were born, and I saw how you got to this stage. But my worry is not that this thing should continue. We are a country and we are a state of law.
Sure.
Irrespective of their interpretation of one another, let us endeavor to take our dirty lenience off the public, because these are things or signs that comes to tell us what lies ahead, provided the current head of state decide not to contest for elections, provided the current head of state is voted out, provided nature calls him. So everyone is looking for a means to situate his or herself at the level of the presidency and where power comes from. Which I want to say that we have to go back and repeal a lot of laws made in this country, especially those laws that we have taken power and given to the presidency. Totally. Wherein a man can sit and decide on what to do. So, the Secretary General at the presidency, His Excellency, Minister of State, Ferdinand Gongo, had to call for this meeting, which held at the presidency at his behest. Yes, it was, the meeting at the presidency was at his behest. This time around, we did not hear high instructions. Now, you will understand that Adam Muduki, on the other hand, has a direct line where he will talk with the president, and the president, on the other hand, looks at Ferdinand Gongo and finds him very assiduous to his position, and as an astute Secretary of State to the presidency, every single thing he sees in him is someone who wants to build the country. And you know, he's relatively very submissive to the head of state. The footages are out there, you can see some of them.
Kneeling down,
almost prostrating, and the rest. So those things also, they appeal to your conscience when you want to carry out certain actions, which of course he isn't the only person doing that. So I think what they need to do is, Cameroonians do not know, because what is the rationale? What was the problem? Mudiki will later on buy a certain share from Savannah oil, which of course, you know, the same Savannah oil and Koto, I think they're about Kotko, which the Chadian president had once written to the presidency and sent an envoy that, hey, I don't understand this thing. I think they had almost called off. They recalled their ambassador to Cameroon
during that time,
during that period, because of all of this. And the president of the republic would later on send somebody to Jamena to talk with the Chadian president. So these are some of the things. This is the background where people get up, they act in their own accord. How would you, in a state corporation, though you are the general manager, but what does the operational manual says? That you have the right to purchase shares, even though they are for the good of the people. The Bible says, let not their good deeds be evil spoken of. Okay, so sometimes you have some wonderful ideas, but because of the way you present it, it becomes an evil idea. So sometimes it is also good that some of these people understand, or these people, they should understand what is on the table and the way Cameroon operates.
Okay, moving forward with the post. The post of late Francis Wache from Boya says Professor Maurice Kamto urges CRM militants to shun regime maneuvers. What do you make of this latest outing of Kamto to his militant sympathizers after the no-nonsense Paul Atanganji made a mockery of him in his outing over there at the Hotel de Ville in Yaoundé during the 10 regional governors conclave?
It is normal. It is normal that every head of a political party, once he detects signs of repression, he has the right to come out and call his people. I remember Donald Trump in 2020, you know, the famous January 6th. Yeah, and if you look at his campaigns all through, he's been calling on his people. You know, I like looking at the United States because it is the country that everybody wants to see what is happening there. So, he did not sleep. Kamto cannot sleep. He shouldn't sleep. He's calling on his militants to shun fear and muster the courage. And why not double their courage to get the bull by the horn? Because he sees himself the next president of the Republic of Cameroon, as will be closing 2025. So, it is only normal. And you should not forget that my senior brother, the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, are often referred to as the no-nonsense man, identify what he considers nonsense in the activities of PCRN and MRSC, and made his direct subordinates, the regional governors, the divisional officers, and the rest.
The SDOs.
Yes.
See that take charge.
Take charge.
Take command, as they normally say during the installation ceremony. Take command.
Pepper them. Don't listen to what they say. If they come to the street,
fire them.
Do what you know is best. You get it? So I don't get the point. You get it? So this is the reason for Kamto to this is a reason for his outing, to call on his people, to tell them that no, you see what that guy said, you see what these people are saying, they want to use us forever, and let us not succumb. Stand up for your right, as Bob Marley had said. So this is the reason Kamto came out. I want to say that if it works, great, because the people for many years have seen the worst in this country. Well, I don't want to go into another topic. I suppose the papers will be capturing it hopefully next week.
All right, so
bad roads.
All right, moving on to seeing the worst and seeing bad governance, we take you now to Nigeria with a paper from Abuja. That's Daily Sun. Daily Sun for today says nationwide protest fallout. Senators, reps, politicians desert Abuja, travel to abroad for safety. We have a scenario where Nigerians are gathering steam to bomb the streets of Nigeria, from Lagos to Calabar to Abuja,
to
Kano. Yeah, so to say enough is enough with bad governance, corruption, high standard of living, high cost of living. We see politicians in Nigeria vacating Abuja, the capital, federal capital territory, to look for safety in abroad, as they promised that what happened in Kenya is just a tip of an iceberg. Tinubu is on a hot seat. What do you make of this caption by Daily Sun for this day?
Great. Tinubu will later on accuse Peter Obi of inciting these people. I think I'm following it. Yes, but to flee your country, if you are a lawmaker in your country for your people, your co-constituents, why are you running from them? Aren't you the same person who was voted by these same people? I beg to understand this. Because when you look at the people who are now calling on the lawmakers to sit up, to look at the people first, and halt the aspect of they trying to feel an unending gluttony, or to satisfy their unending gluttony, that you should halt that crazy thing you're doing in Asu Rock, beginning with the president, moving to the parliament, going to the senate, that we are not going to succumb to it, and you're now running. Why? Nigerians are now looking at how to rebuild their country, because they know, like I earlier said, I would say as a Christian that glory be to God that I earlier made mention of the fact that the parliament, the lawmakers are the ones who spoil the country, not the presidency.
Sure.
And they said they are not interested in Asu Rock. They don't want to go to Asu Rock. They are not going to Asu Rock. Therefore, the Unity Palace of Nigeria, or rather the presidency of Nigeria.
Yeah, the State House.
The State House. They said they are going to go after members of parliament. For one reason, they have made a lot of bad laws, defended a lot of wrong things coming from Asu Rock, that they are not going to condone these things anymore. That they can maneuver them. By the grace of God, they have been delivered. By the multitude of men of God they have in their country. So they want to get the bull by the horn and use their deliverance and set a good record to physically take the kingdom that suffered violence, and they want to be violent and act violently so they can take it by force, as Kenyans did, and the entire cabinet of William Ruto was kicked out. So they want to see the same thing in Nigeria, because corruption in Nigeria, as they say, water don't pass Gary. So they see it as something that is indeed causing Nigerians to take to the Mediterranean, to take to the Atlantic, to the Sahara Desert, It has caused Nigerians to go into crimes because the economy don't cha. So they want to see who is indeed holding this, and they have realized that in their own research. But I don't know why Peter Obi is now being accused. Does it mean that Peter Obi wields this much power? Therefore, it means that his claims as concerning the rigging of elections in his country are right.
Yeah.
Because if this multitude of people are the same people who voted the current regime according to Peter Obi, why are these same people against the people they voted?
That's a question.
That's a question.
And we shouldn't forget Tinubu himself, when Umaru Musa Yaradua of blessed memory was president, and later on he died and Goodluck Jonathan came in. Tinubu went to the streets of Lagos, went to the streets of Abuja protesting. Goodluck have done this. Umaru Musa Yaradua did this, that, and now it is 10. He is panicking. So isn't this the scenario where we say what goes around comes around?
It's a very glaring evidence of you give me what I will give you. Yes, this is a clear situation. I'm giving you what you don't give me. So I don't think he has anything to do with this, because it will be difficult for him to stop it. I know when Nigerians want to act.
Because under his watch, Nigeria has grown from bad to worst.
My brother.
The naira keeps on depreciating. High cost of living is soaring. I have some colleagues there. They were like telling me. The other one told me I couldn't go to work, and I was asking why. There is no fuel. That I went to the gas station. There's no fuel for me to fuel my car, and if I should take public transport, hoodlums can just cite me and harass me, perhaps killed. You can imagine insecurity is reigning even in the Federal Capital Territory, that used to be the most safer place in Nigeria.
Like I had told you before, Nigerians have refused that they are not going to succumb. Now, to imagine that in Nigeria, you have a country where a man comes up. You know, Nigerians at one point in time said, okay, this same man is priding himself that he built Lagos.
Jagaban.
Lagos is a microcosm of that macro Nigeria. So if you could put up, for example, Lagos is not Nigeria put together.
Sure.
So they are now asking him questions. Okay, if over 10 million people were thereabout, you did what was good for them. Let us see the evidence within the country. So he has failed. So Nigerians are now saying that, okay, since you have failed, what we want is that you should quit and let the lawmakers resign, because they are not doing anything. They are not indicting you when you go wrong. They are not calling people to order. So I think the lawmakers, they need to sit up and look at their co-constituents and see how they can be themselves.
Not when they have all jetted out from the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
They may come back. It's their country. Are they going to run forever? Who is going to sit in the parliament?
That's a question. Lucas, with that, this is what we're going to conclude today's program. And thanks so much for coming. And your last word.
Yes, thank you. With the permission, I want to say that GCE was released. Some attempted suicide. Some actually committed suicide because they loved to go to the university. Howbeit, it was not a call for people to commit suicide. Don't be troubled. I appreciate the GCA board for the confidentiality which they placed this time around, where you may only see my name, but you don't know my points, which is great. And I want to say that for those who have that desire to, why not go to the university? Some of us are out there to assist these people to make informed decisions. Yes, because we notice that most students, they always get into wrong hands. So we are there to advise them what choice they want to make, what you want to study, what points will qualify you into what department. And for those who would have loved to, why not look at other programs, especially the entrance examinations into the Faculty of Agriculture. The Faculty of Agriculture is readily available. Yes, as an integral person within the faculty association, I want to say that we guide students to make choices. And the Faculty of Agriculture, as we all know, is operating with its complete laboratories for all the programs. So those who are interested, they could also contact some of us. You may want to get to High TV, they will know how to get to some of us to assist you, because we don't want students to come into the university and they start moving from one department to the other. Oftentimes it happens because they were not guided. So you should take this opportunity and receive the guide from some of us. We are there to guide you. So you should. Others killed themselves because they could not actually come to the university. They failed the advanced level and they thought it was finished. So they committed suicide. You have passed. Make informed choices, informed decision, which I think will be great for all.
All right, so that was the most we could take for this Monday's edition of the program. But tomorrow, Tuesday, we'll be back with another dose of the set program Press Brief. For me and the entire crew, it's a blessed stay in the company of High Television. Till we come your way, same time, same station. Good day.